The first moments of a love story always carry a touch of magic. They often arrive unexpectedly in places no one would ever think to look, and they have the power to change the rest of two lives that once seemed to share nothing in common. That brilliant afternoon, cheers and applause echoed through the university hall. Graduation caps soared into the sky like fireworks of youth, marking the end of one journey and the beginning of another. Everyone was smiling, hugging families, beaming, as they posed for photos beneath the golden light. Yet in one crowded corner of the auditorium, a man sat quietly between three empty seats. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, but the neatness couldn't hide the loneliness surrounding him. His name was Ethan Caldwell, a young businessman successful beyond his peers' wildest dreams, but there was no pride in his eyes. Instead, a hollow emptiness lingered there, as if he were lost inside the very world he had built. Not far away, a little girl with golden curls clutched her mother's hand as they made their way through the throng. Her name was Lily, just 5 years old, lively, curious, and bold. Beside her was Hannah, a single mother and a nurse rushing to find a seat in time to watch her younger sister graduate. Breathless, her eyes anxious, she still managed to force a smile, because she knew this moment meant everything to her sister. In the midst of cheers, Lily suddenly stopped, her wide round eyes fixed on the sight of the solitary man. The three vacant chairs beside him felt like invisible holes, and though he was staring straight at the stage, it seemed he wasn't really seeing anything at all. "Mommy, why is that man sitting all alone?" Lily tugged at Hannah's sleeve, whispering though, her eyes never left Ethan. "He looks so sad." Hannah glanced over, and indeed there was something in that cold, distant gaze that struck her heart. But she quickly pulled her daughter's attention back. "Come on, sweetheart, you should be watching your aunt. She's about to be called." But Lily didn't listen. Her innocent compassion pushed her forward. She slipped free of her mother's hand, darted through the rows of chairs, and ran straight toward the stranger. Hannah called out, her heart racing, but it was already too late. Lily tilted her round little face up at him, her bright blue eyes shining. "Mister, why are you sitting all by yourself? My name is Lily. What's yours?" The child's innocent question pierced straight through Ethan's heart. In that instant, memories he had buried for years surged back. His late wife, his little daughter, both gone in a tragic accident. They should have been sitting in those empty seats cheering, crying with pride. His throat tightened. He pressed his lips together, forcing out the words, I'm Ethan." Lily frowned, tilting her head unsatisfied. Then suddenly her face lit with a radiant smile. "If you don't have anyone, then my mommy and I will sit with you. You won't be alone anymore." Hannah rushed over, cheeks burning with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry." She says whatever comes into her head. "I'll take her back right away." But Ethan lifted his hand, and for the first time in years, his eyes softened. "It's all right, if you don't mind. I'd be glad for the company." The light in the auditorium seemed to shift in that moment. Hannah hesitated, but when she saw the faint smile touch his lips, fragile like sunlight breaking through heavy clouds, she found herself nodding. And so, they sat together, a lonely CEO, a resilient single mother, and a little girl full of light. When the announcer's voice rang out, Ethan Caldwell, Master of Business Administration, he rose and walked to the stage. Applause thundered around him, but what truly caught him off guard was a clear little voice calling out, "Go, Mr. Ethan, you're the best." And right after another pair of hands clapping warmly, the woman he had met less than 30 minutes ago, in that moment amid the sea of cheering faces, Ethan no longer felt lost. He walked forward, carrying with him a warmth he hadn't felt in years, a feeling that tasted like family, the very thing he thought was gone forever. The celebration dinner after graduation was usually a time for families to gather around together, but for Ethan, he had planned to return to his empty apartment and reheat a bowl of instant noodles. Fate, however, had a different plan. As he stepped out of the noisy auditorium, Hannah was still desperately searching for her sister in the sea of people pouring toward the gates. Somehow in that crowd, Lily, like a little invisible thread, pulled Ethan along with her. She looked up with her bright blue eyes sparkling and asked innocently, "Mr. Ethan, what are you going to eat to celebrate today?" Ethan blinked, caught off guard. For some reason under that clear little gaze he couldn't lie. His lips pressed together, and the truth slipped out in a flat voice. Probably just instant noodles at home. Lily's eyes widened, almost shouting in shock. Then she shook her head fiercely, her voice ringing loud and determined in the crowded courtyard. Noodles are boring. On graduation day, you have to eat pizza. Ethan froze. Pizza? A simple dish he hadn't touched in years. A memory suddenly washed over him. Back then, his wife and daughter used to drag him to the little pizza shop on the corner, where their laughter filled every empty space. When the accident took them away, the dish vanished from his life as well. Hannah, flustered, stepped in quickly. Lily, don't bother him. He's a busy man. But to her surprise, Ethan chuckled, a sound almost unfamiliar even to himself. It's all right. Pizza actually sounds good. If you two don't mind, I'd like to treat you. Lily cheered. See, Mommy. Graduation means triple cheese pizza. Hannah sighed, resigned, but she noticed that Ethan's eyes no longer looked so cold. She nodded. The pizza shop stood across the street, its red brick walls stained with aged windows fogged by steam. The plump Italian owner looked up and broke into a booming laugh the moment he saw Ethan. Good heavens, Ethan Caldwell. It's been ages since you stopped by. Want your old table? Hannah's eyes widened. That name spoken so casually triggered her memory. She had seen his face once in the financial papers left in the hospital waiting room under the headline, Caldwell Group's youngest CEO. Talented and cold. And yet here he was, walking into a modest little pizza shop, greeted like an old friend. Before she could think too much, Lily darted to the window seat, clapping her hands eagerly. Triple cheese for me, please. Hannah ruffled her daughter's hair, laughing. Are you sure you can eat that much? Of course Mr. Ethan will help me, but he can only eat the crust. The cheese is all mine. Ethan laughed quietly, his shoulders shaking as though the sound of a child's voice had awakened something inside him. All right then, I'll sacrifice and eat the crust. No way the crust is too plain. You have to eat sausage too, so you'll be strong enough to race me, Lily scolded seriously. Her words made Ethan's smile falter for a moment. A shadow of sadness flickered in his eyes, but he quickly masked it with a gentle nod. Then, sausage it is. While waiting for the pizza, they ordered lemonade and salad. Lily chattered endlessly about her kindergarten adventures. How one classmate brought in a kitten, how the teacher handed out candy. Ethan listened carefully, asking questions now, and then his eyes softening more with each story. Watching them, Hannah was struck. On the news, Ethan Caldwell was always portrayed as a cold, untouchable figure. But here across from her daughter, he looked every bit like a patient, gentle father. The steaming pizza arrived, cheese stretching golden in long strings. Lily squealed perfect and devoured it eagerly, her face smudged with cheese. Ethan quietly handed her a napkin. You remind me of myself, he said with a soft laugh. When I was your age, I made the same mess. My grandma used to say messy eaters grow up to be millionaires. Really? Lily's eyes widened. Then she turned to her mom. Mommy, does that mean I'll be a millionaire too? Hannah burst into laughter. Yes, if you also study hard. Ethan sat there watching them giggle together, and his chest swelled with a strange, forgotten feeling, something simple, something warm, something he thought had been lost forever. By the time they stepped back onto the street, Boston's sky had deepened to violet. Street lamps flickered on, casting golden light on the damp cobblestones. Hannah pulled her coat tighter, bowing her head slightly. Thank you for dinner. You really didn't have to. Ethan paused, his gaze softening. He was no longer the polished CEO from the magazine cover, but just a man speaking from his heart. His words fell slow and heavy, weighted with years of solitude. Hannah, it's been a long time since I didn't have to eat alone. Truly, it's me who should thank you both. Hannah faltered, torn between retreat and staying close. Before she could answer, Lily slipped her tiny hand into Ethan's rough palm. Next time, you have to eat pizza with me again. Promise. Ethan looked down, and a rare smile curved his lips. His voice was quiet but steady. Next time, I promise. Hannah's heart trembled. She realized her daughter had bonded with this man in just one evening, and he wasn't even trying to hide the tenderness he felt. She cleared her throat, ready to say something, but Lily tugged Ethan's sleeve playfully. But do you even know where to find us? If not, how can there be a next time? Hannah's cheeks flushed with embarrassment, but Ethan laughed a deep, relieved sound. He tilted his head toward Hannah, asking gently, She's right. Could I have your number? Just so I can make that promise real." Hannah froze. She had always guarded her private world. Yet the sincerity in his eyes, and the little hand still clinging to his, left her unable to refuse. "All right," she said softly. Pulling a pen from her purse, she scribbled her number on the back of the receipt. Ethan accepted it as though it were treasure. He folded the slip with care, tucked it into his wallet, then looked up at her with quiet gratitude. "Thank you. I won't bother you, but I need to keep my promise to Lily." Lily hopped in delight, spinning in circles. "Yay, that means more pizza next time." And in that instant, Hannah felt the solid wall she had built around her life begin to crack. Ethan too understood. This wasn't just a random meal. It was the end of long, lonely years and the beginning of a new journey back toward the most precious thing of all, the feeling of family. In the days following that pizza night, an invisible thread began to weave itself between the three of them. Strangers no longer. It wasn't loud or rushed, but quiet, steady, like a hidden stream finding its way through dry ground. Ethan was used to a life packed with board meetings and million-dollar contracts. But now he began to keep a different kind of appointment. Simple, ordinary moments that stirred his heart in ways he hadn't felt in years. One weekend afternoon, they went to the aquarium. Under the shimmering blue light of the giant glass tanks, Lily dragged Ethan from one exhibit to the next, her eyes glowing as if she wanted to drink in the entire ocean. "Mr. Ethan, do you know what this shark is called?" Ethan squinted, pretending to think hard. Maybe a Sharkington." "Nope." Lily burst into laughter, pointing at the nameplate. "It's a sand shark. You have to read the sign." Ethan pulled a mock loser face, tapping his forehead. "Looks like I'll need a little professor to tutor me." From behind, Hannah watched quietly. In the ghostly glow, she saw the man newspapers had called cold and untouchable, bending down patiently, learning the names of fish from a 5-year-old. And strangely, the sight was not only funny, it was beautiful. On another day, they visited the Science Museum. Lily struggled to assemble a toy dinosaur skeleton, clumsily attaching the tail to the head. Ethan straightened up and in a mock-serious tone declared, "This is a rare species called the Budosaurus, the only dinosaur that thinks with its behind." The three of them burst out laughing so hard that a museum staffer had to hush them. They held hands, trying to stifle their giggles, shoulders shaking, tears in their eyes, not from sorrow, but from joy. Hannah realized it had been years since she had laughed so hard her stomach hurt. In their laughter, she felt something rare, sharing comfort, and the safety she thought she'd lost forever. One evening, Ethan appeared at the door of Hannah's modest apartment with a bag of groceries in hand. "Let me try cooking for once. I've watched 3 YouTube tutorials," he said, his face so serious that Hannah couldn't help but laugh. As expected, within minutes, he burned the squash to a crisp. Smoke billowed and Lily collapsed on the floor in hysterics. "Mr. Ethan, are you cooking for dinosaurs?" "Burnt food only." On his second attempt, thanks to Hannah's patient guidance, the spaghetti wasn't perfect, but the kitchen filled with the smell of tomatoes and the sound of laughter. They ate together, then washed dishes side by side. Hannah suddenly realized in this kitchen that once held only her and her daughter, the sound of a man's laughter didn't feel out of place at all. Later that evening, with the faint scent of spaghetti still lingering in the air, the apartment had grown quiet. Only the ticking clock, the wind whispering through the window, and Lily's sleepy yawns remained. She curled up on the rug, clutching her old teddy bear, eyelids heavy, but eyes still shimmering like tiny stars. "Mr. Ethan, tell me a story," she murmured. Ethan sat down, leaning carefully so his large frame wouldn't block the soft glow of the table lamp. His voice was deep and gentle like the low hum of a cello. "Once upon a time, there was a big clumsy dinosaur. Every time he ran, his shoelaces came undone and he would tumble to the ground. His friends laughed and he grew sad. Until one day, he met a little girl. She patiently showed him how to tie bunny ears in his laces. From then on, the dinosaur could run as fast as the wind, never falling again." Lily giggled softly, her smile as pure as ripples spreading across a still pond. She turned over, rested her head on her tiny arm, her eyelids fluttering closed like tired butterfly wings. Even as she drifted into sleep, her lips moved faintly, whispering a wish she didn't fully understand herself. "I want you to stay with me and Mommy, forever." The words fell into the quiet room, like the soft toll of a bell. Hannah froze, her hands clutching the hem of her dress. Ethan's heart clenched sweet and aching at once. The child's simple plea was like a pebble tossed into a still lake, the ripples spreading wider and deeper than either of them could measure. For Lily, it wasn't just a childish request. It was the pure dream of a little girl raised in absence. She was used to only her mother's presence, used to hugging her teddy instead of a father's arms. And now, in such a short time, a man had appeared bringing laughter, gentleness, and a sense of safety she had never known. To her, it was like a sudden light flooding into a darkened room, enough to make her dare to dream out loud of the one thing her small heart had longed for: a whole family. Her cheeks flushed pink in sleep, her smile lingering as she sank deeper into dreams. Perhaps in that dream, she was running freely in the park with her mother waiting tenderly on the bench, and Mr. Ethan chasing after her, shoelaces tied tight, laughter ringing in the air. Hannah gazed at her daughter throat tight. She knew those innocent words carried more than imagination. They were the deep yearning of a child, and painfully it was a yearning she herself had once harbored as a strong but exhausted single mother. Ethan sat in silence, his eyes reflecting a storm of emotion. He had never thought he would hear words of family again, least of all from the lips of a child. Yet here she was, entrusting him with a sacred place in her heart. He knew instantly he could never walk away. No promises were spoken aloud, but Lily's whispered wish lingered in the air, rippling outward, touching all three hearts. Later, when the dinner had faded into tender memory, Hannah walked Ethan to the door. Outside, the dim yellow glow of streetlights painted the fallen leaves honey gold. The night was so still they could hear each other's footsteps. Ethan stood by his car but didn't open the door. He turned back, his voice low, hesitant, almost a confession. "I'm not good with words, but I want more days like this. No fancy parties, no endless meetings. Just walks in the park, ice cream, and laughter." Hannah paused, her heart stirring. She turned, her eyes softening. A small smile touched her lips. "No pressure," she whispered. "Just promise me you won't teach my daughter to eat only pizza crust." Ethan laughed, a rare warm sound like the first sunbeam piercing through heavy clouds. And in that moment, Hannah realized she hadn't seen a man smile like that in a very, very long time. The following Sunday dawned bright and clear, the sunlight sparkling on the Charles River as though shards of glass were scattered across its surface. The riverside path bustled with children chasing balloons, street musicians filling the air with lively melodies and laughter weaving through it all. Hannah had just finished a night shift at the hospital, clutching a coffee cup to fight off her exhaustion. Lily skipped at her side, golden curls bouncing her face, lighting up, when she spotted Ethan waiting under a maple tree. He wasn't the imposing CEO in a designer suit today, just a man in jeans and a crisp shirt, smiling a little awkwardly, but with undeniable sincerity. "This afternoon we've got a special contract to sign," he announced, lifting a small box in his hand. A walk by the river, strawberry popsicles for Lily, and absolutely no setting anyone's kitchen on fire. Lily squealed with delight, hugging the popsicle box like it was treasure. The three of them strolled along the water's edge. The breeze gentle, the scene so simple it looked like a family portrait come to life. Yet that fragile happiness was shattered in an instant. Just as Lily was finishing her popsicle, her tiny hands suddenly went limp, the stick dropping to the ground. Her face twisted in pain, her little hand clutching her chest, her breaths coming in frantic gasps, her skin drained of color. Hannah cried, dropping to her knees, trembling hands catching her daughter. "Breathe slowly, sweetheart, with me. Slow, just like Mommy." Ethan froze. He had commanded boardrooms worth hundreds of millions, but he had never felt so powerless. He dropped to his knees beside them, his voice breaking. "What's happening? Should I call 911? Hannah shook her head, her eyes blurred with tears. She has a congenital heart defect. Her valve doesn't close properly. The doctors recommended surgery, but I couldn't." Ethan stared at Lily, her lips trembling, her breaths thin as a thread. His whole body went rigid, his heart shattering. Only yesterday she had been laughing about a dinosaur tying its shoelaces, and now she looked like a fragile angel slipping from their grasp. Hannah held her daughter tighter, her voice laced with pride and anguish. "You can't tell anyone, and don't even think about helping. I won't let my daughter become someone's burden or let people think I'm clinging to you. This isn't a debt, Hannah. Ethan burst out, his voice trembling with restraint. This is her life. Do you think I can just turn my back? We don't have time. But Hannah shook her head, her eyes red, her pride a wall that refused to fall. You don't understand. A single mother like me, I'm too used to suspicious looks. I can't give them another reason to call me a user. Ethan reached out, grasping her shaking hand. His voice was raw, each word a plea. Listen to me, Hannah. Don't call it pity. Call it a loan. One day you can repay me however you wish. But right now, the only thing that matters is Lily. If we wait even an hour, that little heart may stop beating. Please, give me this chance so I don't have to stand powerless again. Hannah broke into sobs, her shoulders quaking under the weight of her choice. She looked down at her daughter's pale face, remembering sleepless nights holding her close, remembering the promise she had sworn to always protect her. But that promise was crumbling against the brutal truth she couldn't save her alone. Ethan, she whispered, her voice breaking, I agree. For Lily. Only for Lily. Ethan closed his eyes, exhaling a long, ragged breath, as if pulled back from an abyss. He said nothing more, only squeezed Hannah's hand, his chest surging with gratitude and fierce resolve. That night, the hospital corridor blazed with fluorescent light. Doctors' hurried files rushed from hand to hand. The wheels of a stretcher rattled as Lily was pushed toward intensive care. Hannah walked beside her, clutching her daughter's small hand, her voice choked with sobs. Sweetheart, I'm sorry. I had to accept help. But everything is only so your little heart can keep beating. Lily's eyelids fluttered open, a faint smile ghosting across her lips. I'll try to run faster, so Mr. Ethan has to chase me. Hannah bent low, pressing a desperate kiss to her daughter's forehead, her tears mixing with the cold sweat on the girl's skin. Behind them, Ethan's chest tightened like a vice, but in his eyes flickered a fragile flame of hope. At last they had seized a chance to fight for her life. And in that moment, he made a silent vow, no matter the cost, he would not let Lily slip from their arms. The next morning, the Boston hospital was bathed in pale sunlight, yet the brightness could not lift the heaviness that hung over its halls. Hannah held Lily tightly in her arms, her little girl dressed in star-patterned hospital pajamas, Hannah's own hands trembling non-stop. Beside her, her younger sister had rushed back from New York, wrapping her arms around Hannah for comfort. And behind them, Ethan stood silently holding 3 cups of hot coffee that no one touched. Mommy, I'll be okay, won't I? Lily's voice quivered, but her eyes shone, as if she were the one comforting her mother. Hannah bent down, clutching her close, whispering through tears. You're Mommy's superhero. And superheroes never lose. Do you understand? Ethan crouched down, his large hand closing around Lily's tiny fingers. She smiled faintly at him. Mr. Ethan, next time, I'll run faster than you. You remember our promise? His throat tightened, his grip firm, as if trying to pour his strength into her. I'll be waiting for that day, Lily. The doors of the operating room swung closed, leaving Hannah collapsed in a chair, her shoulders shaking uncontrollably. Her sister hugged her tight, whispering reassurances, while Ethan quietly set the coffee in front of them, his silent presence trying to shoulder even a fraction of the weight Hannah bore. Time in the waiting room dragged like centuries. Hannah paced, stood again, her hands twisting the worn fabric of her blouse until it nearly tore. Ethan watched her, then finally spoke, the first time he revealed what he had buried in silence for years. I've sat in a waiting room like this before. Years ago on a rainy night, I was driving with my wife and daughter. Just one phone call, a few distracted seconds, and a truck hit us. I survived. They didn't. His voice cracked, but he forced the words out. Since then, I buried myself in work. Work doesn't cry, work doesn't blame, but the emptiness only grew. Hannah lifted her tear-streaked face, stunned. She had never imagined that the man the press called untouchable carried a wound so deep it would never heal. She reached out, placing her trembling hand on his, her voice breaking but sincere. Ethan, it was an accident. You lost so much, but it wasn't your fault. And because you're still here, today, Lily has someone else who truly cares for her, someone who truly worries about her. Ethan bowed his head, and for the first time in years, tears fell, not for loss, but for hope. Then the doors burst open. The surgeon pulled down his mask, his eyes alight with triumph. The valve has been repaired. Blood flow is strong. She'll need time to recover, but the outlook is very good. Hannah broke down sobbing, clutching her sister. Ethan stood frozen, then moved forward, wrapping both women in his arms. For the first time in so long, he felt he was part of a family again. In that moment, the pain that had haunted him didn't vanish, but it softened, warmed by something stronger. In his heart, one word pulsed louder than anything else: family. The next morning, sunlight streamed into the recovery room. Lily lay there, her cheeks rosy again, her breathing steady. Hannah sat beside her, exhausted from a sleepless night, but radiant with relief. Ethan entered quietly, 2 cups of coffee in hand, his eyes rimmed red. He gazed at the little girl, and tears welled once more. But this time he whispered through a trembling smile, "It's been so long since I cried over something so beautiful." Hannah looked up, and she no longer saw the icy CEO from the papers. She saw a man trembling before a miracle. She laid her hand on his arm, her voice breaking yet full of warmth. "You didn't operate on her, and you didn't replace her tiny heart. But your presence, your genuine care carried us through the hours we thought we couldn't endure. You weren't only here for Lily, you were here for me. You gave me the faith that I'm not alone anymore." Lily stirred, her eyes fluttering open, a frail but triumphant smile tugging at her lips. "Mommy, I won. My heart is strong now." Hannah burst into tears, showering her daughter's cheeks with kisses. Ethan leaned down, laughing softly through his own tears. "Yes, Lily, you won, and I'll always be cheering for every race you run." In that hospital room filled with laughter and tears, Ethan's dark past finally began to fade, replaced by the bright, steady beat of a heart reborn. Autumn in Boston blazed with a cruel kind of beauty. The old streets of Beacon Hill were carpeted with red and golden leaves, the wind chasing them down cobblestones like whispers of memory. Passers-by lifted their heads and smiled at the scene. But in Hannah's heart, the brilliance of fall only sharpened the weight of unease. She knew the days just past had been too perfect, too warm to go untested for long. Ethan had stepped into her and Lily's life like a sudden ray of light breaking through a door's crack, bringing joy so simple she thought she'd never touch it again. He had fumbled through cooking dinner, listened to Lily chatter about dinosaurs, walked with them by the Charles River, and stood strong beside them as her little girl's fragile heart pulled through surgery. And in that white hospital room, Hannah had seen a different Ethan. Not the aloof CEO, but a man trembling before the miracle of life. From that moment, Ethan's heart had turned. He didn't want to remain just a visitor who dropped by with pizza or a companion for Lily's laughter before retreating to his empty apartment. He wanted more. He wanted to stay. He wanted to belong, to step fully into their world as a part of it, not apart from it. That night, after Lily drifted off to sleep, Hannah sat in the small living room, her eyes rimmed with exhaustion, but glowing with a rare gentleness. Ethan sat in the wooden chair by the window, his hand reaching for hers. His fingers trembled slightly as though even he was startled by what he was about to say. His voice fell low, the words torn from the deepest place in his soul. "I don't want to be an outsider anymore. I don't want to just knock on the door with pizza or be Lily's playmate before going back to an empty place. I want more. I want to sit here every day. I want to wake up and see you still sleeping peacefully. I want to hear Lily call me Daddy as she runs into my arms. I want a family. I want us." Hannah froze. His words crashed against the walls she had built for years. Since the day she stopped believing in promises, she had carried everything on her own shoulders, telling herself only she was enough to protect her child. But now this man, once distant cold, married only to his work and grief, was on the other side of that wall, his eyes burning with such longing it made her tremble. "Ethan, you don't understand. What will people think?" Her voice cracked. "A simple nurse, a single mother, stepping into the life of a millionaire? They'll say I'm using you. Your family will despise me. Your mother, your brother. They'll see me as nothing but a stain." Ethan leaned closer, closing the distance until only breath separated them. His deep brown eyes pierced through her defenses. "Hannah, for years I was just a body going through motions. Each day I buried myself in work because it was the only way to escape the emptiness. But you and Lily, You pulled me out of the darkness. I don't need the world's approval. I need you. I need Lily. Only the two of you. Tears welled as Hannah bit her lip. You could have anyone. Someone richer, someone elegant, someone who fits your world. And me? I'm just a tired heart worn thin. Ethan grasped her hand tightly, afraid to lose it. I don't need a perfect woman to impress society. I need someone who will sit across a simple table, laugh with me over little things, and chase Lily through the park. That person is only you. The raw honesty in his voice tore through her last defenses. This wasn't whim or fleeting passion. It was the truth, born of days spent watching Lily's courage, Hannah's resilience, and feeling his own pain mirrored in theirs. They had taught him that family didn't need perfection, only sincerity. The walls around Hannah's heart began to crack. She whispered, trembling, "Do you really want that?" "I do," Ethan answered, firm but trembling. "I want to call you my wife. I want to call Lily my daughter. I want a family again. And this time, I won't lose it." Hannah broke down in sobs, but not from fear. For the first time in years, she felt trust. Her hands loosened then, instinctively wrapped around him in an embrace. In that tiny room, two scarred hearts finally found warmth in each other. And in that moment, doubt and fear melted away, leaving only the longing to love and to be a family. But just as that fragile happiness took root, it was swiftly tested. One drizzly afternoon after her hospital shift, Hannah received an envelope embossed with fine lettering. Inside was a summons to a high-end cafe in Back Bay. The sender was not Ethan. The neat, cold handwriting read, "I am Evelyn Caldwell. Meet me. Do not keep me waiting." All day unease gnawed at her. She walked slowly along the slick cobblestones, rain tapping against her old umbrella. The cafe gleamed ahead, golden light spilling through its windows onto glittering gowns and tailored suits inside. It was a world that didn't belong to her. The door swung open, and she saw them immediately. Evelyn Caldwell, hair silver coiled into a perfect bun, a string of pearls gleaming at her throat. Her very presence radiated the power of a woman who had stood behind the greatest financial empire in the city. Beside her sat Marcus, Ethan's older brother, sharp in a gray suit, his gaze cold as a blade. Hannah approached, her pulse pounding. She sat, hands trembling beneath the table to hide her fear. The conversation began with silence. Evelyn's eyes raked over her. Every loose thread of her plain nurse's blouse, every crease of exhaustion. Then the older woman lifted her chin, her voice soft, but edged with steel. "You're Hannah, aren't you? A nurse at the city hospital." It wasn't a question. It was a verdict. Marcus wasted no time. He leaned in, voice clipped and merciless. "Ethan is heir to Caldwell Group. He needs a wife who can stand at his side on the world stage, at diplomatic dinners, billion-dollar negotiations. Not a woman who spends nights in hospital wards wiping sweat from patients. Our world and yours do not intersect." Each word cut deep into Hannah's pride. Evelyn continued, her tone sharper still. "What do you think the public will say? A millionaire marrying a single mother? They'll call it a joke, a disgrace to the name we spent decades building. You'll drag Caldwell through the mud." Hannah's hands clenched in her lap until her nails drew blood. She wanted to shout that love wasn't measured in wealth or titles, but their icy stares froze the words in her throat. Tears burned her eyes, but she swallowed them back. With what dignity she had left, she rose, her voice hoarse but steady. "I never wanted his money or his status. I only wanted him as a man, as a father for my child. But if my presence is nothing but a burden to you, then I will walk away." No one stopped her, not a word of protest. Only cold eyes followed her as she stepped back into the pounding autumn rain. That night, the small apartment was cloaked in darkness. Hannah sat by Lily's bed, watching her daughter sleep, golden hair fanned across the pillow. She brushed her cheek, whispering through broken sobs. "Maybe I was wrong, Lily. Maybe I'm not strong enough to keep him. Maybe it should be just us again the way it's always been." Her tears fell, soaking her daughter's tiny hand. Lily stirred in her dreams, murmuring faintly, "Mr. Ethan, pizza, dinosaurs." Hannah's chest tore open. She pressed her face to her daughter's palm, crying silently. She knew Ethan had become a part of Lily's world, as he had hers. But the cruelty of rejection left her too afraid to believe she had the right to hold on. What she didn't know was that across the city, Ethan had already learned the truth. A loyal employee, unable to stay silent, had reported the entire encounter. Ethan sat alone in his luxury apartment, his hand gripping a glass until it cracked, his eyes blazing with a fury he had never felt before. This time, he would not stay silent. No one, not even his family, had the right to take away the woman and the child who had saved him from the shadows. The next day, as Hannah walked out of the hospital after her shift, Ethan was already waiting by the gates. He stood there among the crowd, his face set with such fierce determination that Hannah froze, unable to turn away. "Hannah," his voice called low and hoarse from sleeplessness. "I know what they said to you. I know how they hurt you." Hannah lowered her head, trying to walk past, but Ethan stepped forward, gently taking her hand. It wasn't the grip of power, but one that trembled, as if he feared losing her forever. "You're planning to leave me," he whispered, "but you're forgetting something. We're not two separate worlds anymore. Walking away doesn't just mean leaving me. It means forcing Lily to give up the family she's already claimed as her own." Hannah's steps faltered. "Ethan, you don't understand. I don't want you to lose your family, to lose your honor. I couldn't bear it if people looked down on you because of me." Ethan lifted his head, his deep brown eyes blazing with resolve. "Hannah, if I lose you, if I lose Lily, then I have no honor worth protecting. I already lost a family once. I swear I won't lose one again. If they want to sneer, let them sneer at me. But I will not let you face their words alone." He paused, then pulled an envelope from his jacket. Inside was a card stamped with the Caldwell Group Crest Annual Gala, Copley Hotel. "Come with me. Let the world see who I choose. Let them know Hannah isn't on the outside. She's my future." Hannah stared at the card, her heart pounding. Fear rose like a tide, but in Ethan's gaze she saw something different. For the first time in years, a man wasn't asking to hold her hand in secret. He wanted to stand with her in the light. She stayed silent for a long time, then finally gave a small nod. Not because the fear had vanished, but because deep down she knew if she didn't take this step with him, she would regret it for the rest of her life. And so, on the night of the gala at the Copley Hotel, Hannah appeared on Ethan's arm. Wearing a simple emerald green dress, she walked into the dazzling hall of crystal chandeliers. Whispers rippled through the crowd, eyes followed her like daggers. Hannah shrank back, trembling, but Ethan's hand tightened around hers, his grip as steady as a vow. "You're not alone. I won't let you retreat again." When the MC called Ethan to the stage, the room hushed. He stood tall, his gaze sweeping across the crowd until it rested on Hannah, sitting stiff and terrified. His voice rang out clear and commanding. "Some of you believe Hannah, sitting right there, is unworthy. You call her just a nurse, a single mother. But let me be perfectly clear. She is not a burden. Without her and her little girl, I wouldn't be standing here today with a heart still capable of love." The whispers surged. Marcus's face darkened. Evelyn looked down in shame. Ethan pressed on, his voice rising with conviction. "Hannah has given me something no fortune can buy, a family. She saved me from loneliness, taught me that even after loss, hope can return. Anyone who insults her insults me." For a moment, silence blanketed the hall. Then applause broke out, hesitant at first, then swelling until the entire room clapped. Cameras flashed, guests rose to their feet. Hannah sat, frozen, tears streaming down her cheeks. Never in her life had a man stood before the world to defend her. When Ethan stepped down, he seized her hand, leaned close, and whispered, "I choose you, Hannah. Always you." In that instant, the walls around her heart collapsed completely. For the first time, she believed in miracles again. The miracle called love. In the glittering hall, crystal lights sparkling over rows of wine glasses, all eyes were fixed on Ethan's speech. At the very back, a pair of young eyes glowed with excitement. Lily sat beside her Aunt Kiana, tiny hands clutching the hem of her dress, her heart soaring as Ethan's words filled the room. Each vow, each squeeze of her mother's hand carved itself into her little soul. When Ethan finished, murmurs rippled through the crowd. Suddenly, Lily broke free, dashing down the aisle before anyone could stop her. The back doors swung open and a small figure ran into the grand hall, her golden curls, wild sneakers dusty from school, but her eyes shining like a beacon in a sea of glittering gowns. Kiana hurried behind, breathless, stammering. "I'm sorry." She insisted on coming. She said she had something important to tell her mom and Mr. Ethan. No one had time to react before Lily flung her arms around her mother, her clear little voice ringing out. "I knew it. I knew Mr. Ethan would never let Mommy leave." Her innocent words full of trust cracked the icy tension. Some guests chuckled, others shook their heads, but many smiled, warmth softening their gazes. Ethan bent down, wrapping Hannah and Lily in his arms, solid, unyielding, like a living shield standing between them and every judgmental eye. In his embrace, neither mother nor child trembled anymore. From afar, Marcus watched his glare sharp as ever, but when his gaze fell on Lily, her bright, trusting eyes, he faltered. A memory stirred of himself, as a boy holding his little brother's hand, swearing, "I'll always protect you." And now Ethan was doing the same, protecting the family he chose. Shame replaced his anger, and Marcus lowered his head. Evelyn, too, looked away. She had convinced herself she was protecting her son, guarding the family name. But seeing Ethan's smile, the smile she thought had died with his wife and child, made her heart quake. Her lips trembled, but no words came, only a tear slipping down her cheek. Ethan held Hannah and Lily close, then lifted his head, his voice resonating across the hall. "I lost one family. I will never lose another. If anyone rejects Hannah, they reject me." The room fell silent. Not a soul dared to challenge him. Marcus averted his eyes. Evelyn turned away, her face wet with silent tears. When the gala ended, the autumn wind swept cold through the streets outside. Ethan stopped under a lamppost, turning Hannah gently to face him. "From this day, I promise you, no one, not even my family, will ever make you feel small again. I will never let you or Lily stand alone." Hannah looked into his eyes, and all her fears, all her walls melted away. What remained was peace and trust. Tears slid down her cheeks, but this time they were tears of relief. She nodded, her hand gripping his. "I believe you." Ethan bent down, pressing a tender kiss to her forehead. For a moment, the whole city seemed to fall quiet, leaving only them. A man who once lost everything, a woman who once fought alone, and a vow to walk forward together, never letting go. By June of the following year, Boston glowed beneath a sky of flawless blue. Sunlight poured over brick-paved streets, while in a small garden on the outskirts of the city, ribbons of white and blooming roses adorned a simple archway. There was no opulent ballroom, no 1,000 guests, only close friends. A few of Hannah's co-workers and a handful of Ethan's longtime partners who understood that this day wasn't about power or wealth. It was about family. Hannah appeared in a modest wedding gown. No glittering sequins, no extravagant flair. She was beautiful in her simplicity, her eyes shining with trust, hard-won after years of storms. Beside her, Ethan's hand held hers tightly, the veins standing out as if he were clinging to the whole world. Soft piano music drifted through the air. Down the aisle skipped Lily in a little princess dress, scattering rose petals from a basket. She turned to the guests, her voice ringing with pride. "Look, everyone, this is my dad." Laughter bubbled through the garden, warm and tender. Hannah froze for just a moment, her heart trembling. Tears filled her eyes, not from hesitation, but from overwhelming joy. Ethan bent down, squeezed Lily's hand, then reached out his other hand to Hannah. Beneath the white arch, the officiant prepared to speak, but Ethan lifted a hand to speak first. His voice rose steady and clear, carrying through the summer air without a microphone. "I once believed success meant standing alone at the top, proving I was stronger than my pain, but I was wrong. True success is having someone to hold, someone to share it with. Hannah, you and Lily gave me back a family, and today I vow never to let it slip away again." Hannah bowed her head, tears spilling freely, then whispered through her sobs, "Ethan, you haven't just given me love. You've given Lily a father. From today on, we will never be alone again." Applause thundered, mingling with the summer breeze. Lily clapped her little hands, jumping up and down. "Now, we're really a family." At the back row, Evelyn covered her face with trembling hands. For years she had clung to her son, forcing him to live under the crushing weight of expectations, believing it was the only way not to lose him. But when she saw the smile on his face, the smile she thought had died with his wife and daughter, Her resolve broke. She stepped forward, her voice shaking. "My son, I'm sorry. I was blinded by fear, but now I see. Hannah has brought you back to us." She clasped Hannah's hands tightly. Marcus followed, awkward and stiff, but when Lily tugged at his sleeve, he bent down. "Now you're Uncle Marcus, right?" she asked, her eyes wide. He chuckled, nodding. "Yes, and I'll try my best to be a good uncle." Laughter rippled again, sunlight spilling brighter over the garden. The reception was simple, but filled with joy. Kiana, Hannah's sister, lifted a glass, her eyes misty. "Today my sister didn't just gain a husband. She found a family. From now on, she'll never carry everything alone." Hannah leaned her head on Ethan's shoulder while he whispered in her ear, "I made a promise, and I'll keep it. You're the most important part of my life." Later that afternoon, as the guests departed, the three of them sat together on the grass. Lily nestled between them, her small hands gripping theirs tightly. Her eyes glowed as she declared, "Now our family has 3 people. No one's missing anymore." Ethan looked at Hannah, then at the little girl who had reignited his broken heart. For the first time in years, the shadow of loss no longer weighed him down. Before him stretched only a sunlit path, one he would walk hand in hand with the 2 souls he loved most. After all the storms, their story closed not with grandeur, but with the peace they had yearned for through lonely years. Ethan, once a man consumed by grief, found life's meaning again in Hannah's and Lily's embrace. That afternoon after the wedding, the grass still wet with dew, Lily sat between her parents, her little hands clasped in theirs. "Now I have both a mommy and a daddy." She sang, her smile radiant as a tiny sun. And in that moment, Ethan knew the emptiness of his past was finally filled. Hannah rested her head on her husband's shoulder, listening to the summer wind whisper through the trees. Her fear was gone, replaced by unwavering faith. She no longer had to fight alone through endless nights, because every morning a man would be there beside her, ready to share both joy and hardship. Their story wasn't a fairy tale, but proof of love's quiet, miraculous power, because sometimes all it takes is a hand to hold a promise kept and a heart willing to open for fate to change. And so, from one chance meeting at a graduation ceremony, a new family was born. Not perfect, but overflowing with love. A family that proved even after loss, even after pain, people can still find light. If they are brave enough to believe in love again,